Alright, this is my first attempt at a video blog. Just saw a video another girl did where she was talking about auditory hallucinations. Basically, she's hearing things that aren't there, which I didn't know was associated with the disorder. She said something about like a baby screaming, like right here. She would hear screaming like 4 days straight, something to that extent. I guess one of the biggest things, I've talked about suicide. I'll eventually talk about my children, my oldest who's bipolar, more extensively. I've talked about how it's, ruined all my relationships, kind of burned bridges with a lot of people. It is what it is. I'm all about moving forward. I've told the people that I'm sorry, and there's a couple more I do, but that's my life. But anyway, the biggest and strangest thing for me to admit or even talk about is, ever since I was a kid, I could not hear and not always see, but I could feel ghosts, and I hate admitting that, because I didn't admit that to myself until a couple weeks ago. I've always had it. I could feel things, and the other people, is what I call them, because I refused to accept that they were dead people. Well, the other people would send me messages, not necessarily, they weren't directly talking to me, but they would send me images of what they looked like. Every once in a while I could get a word or two. I could sometimes, in my head, like I said, they would project into my mind. I feel so weird talking about this. And they could project, like I could see them, in my mind I could see them like talking, but I couldn't understand what they were saying. Sometimes it was muffled, sometimes it was just no sound at all. It was weird. It's not even like noise. A lot of this doesn't really follow any rules or regulations. Like, I've never watched anything about ghosts or read a whole lot of stuff that necessarily coincides with how it works for me. So a lot of this might sound strange. And the reason I'm doing this is because that girl was talking about the screaming baby and having the hallucinations, auditory hallucinations. And I figured, fuck it, why not? I'm crazy. I got crazy things. Crazy shit's going on in my head, if I could talk about suicide, I'm actually you can't see it. There it is. It's my last suicide note. Yeah, I think I'm touching it. Yeah, so if I could talk about that, might as well talk about this. And it's not there as a sad reminder as much as it's motivation. Anyway, figured I could talk about this. It's just kind of cheesy and it's weird. But it's been my entire life. When I was younger, I remember having conversations. Well, actually, I don't. I remember seeing them, and I'd have nightmares all the time, but my mom actually remembers me. She said she would come in, and, I'm having full-blown conversations, and she said she knew from a young age that I had that gift. I had one other person I told about when I was younger, and we would go around the cemeteries. He had it, too. He was bipolar as well, so I don't know if that fits in with it, but we'd go to cemeteries and we would test each other. We would feel something somewhere, and then be like, what do they look like? And then we would just kind of open up our minds, and we would basically, we would see or experience the same things, whether that's legit or not, I don't know. He's still alive, but he actually ended up ODing on heroin, kind of fried his brain. He has the mental state of a 5-year-old, so unfortunately I can't talk back with him or communicate with him. He's my best friend for a while. But I don't remember when I was young, the first time I remember, but even as I remember this, I knew it wasn't the first time that I experienced it. We had those trailer classrooms. This is down in Florida. And I'm just sitting there doing 4th grade things, whatever that was. Probably not math, because I'm shitty at that. And I'm just writing or something, and I could feel it. And I labeled them later called travelers, and it just not on the same ground level, because we were raised up, but slightly down. It was just I felt this woman, from one side, directly through it, the thing didn't exist. And just that way. Literally, right through the classroom. And I could tell, and this is a weird thing, I can usually tell where their attention is at. I can't tell what they're thinking or what their motivation is, can't tell how they died. Like, none of this is cool. Like, it's not like, oh, your Uncle Bob died and the treasure's under the tree. None of it's cool. I wish it was. But, so I felt her, and that was the first time I was like, and I remember what she was wearing, loosely, but I remember what she looked like. I remember, you know, it was like she has brown curly hair. And I could see it in my head, and it was weird. I could see her facial structure. Like I said, I can't see it as much as, like, it's put into my mind. It's like if I say the word elephant, you're thinking of an elephant. It's that kind of concept. So, that's the first time I, like, legit remembered. I'm like, what was that? It's like, why did I just experience and understand that? Later on in life, it would scare the shit out of me. Just terrifying. Because I don't know what happened, but it was like they caught on. An example, I used to go to Hollywood Cemetery a lot in Richmond, Virginia. It was like my favorite place. Outside of that, just, I've expressed 1,000 times, faggy goth kid, you know. A little bit all over subcultures, but I do enjoy cemeteries, and they're pretty to me. I mean, it is spooky, it's dark, I don't know, I just like all the things. I can't even pretend to be cool anymore. But anyway, so I would go there, and I could feel different things. It was weird. It was really neat, and like I said, I can tell where they're at, like where their attention span's at, and at some point in time, I remember when I was younger too, but some of them would pick up that I could pick up on them, and that sucked, because they stare. Like, a lot of them, it's almost like if you walk through an aisle in a grocery store, somebody else is, like, looking at peanut butter, trying to figure out, and, like, you guys are mutually aware, but not interacting, you know, you're aware that there's a person there. Well, a lot of it's like that, it's almost like, you know, I can sense them, and then they kind of indifferently can figure me out, and some of them will, like, not stop, because I can't say they're doing anything, I don't fucking know, but they'll kind of stop, and they, like, perk up, like, they notice me a little bit more than most people. And then there's the ones that just fucking stare. Like, this happens in Hollywood Cemetery. There's like 5 places I won't go, but they stare, and I can't see them. But I do know I haven't seen it, but it's hard to explain to people. But their face is very, as far as expression, not the way that they look, their face is it's porcelain-like, it's very stiff, it's strange, it's very, very strange, it's hard to explain as well, but their eyes are different. There's no full, clear image in my head, like, I've never seen, you know, like a face straight on, like, it just doesn't exist, but a lot of them, especially the ones that stare, the only way I can describe it is, like pits, and, like, not physical pits as in, like, you know, their eyes are scooped out and there's, like, you know, science or material or matter behind it. It's just like it's just something wrong with it. I don't know. But the ones that stare, when they stare, it is the creepiest shit you've ever felt in your life. They can't really do anything that I've ever experienced. They never, well, they can follow me, but they never come after me. But the ones that stare, it's just creepy. It's like in a horror movie, like, you've seen it before, but there's this monster coming up, and it's still kind of like spiders. We're all pretty well aware and adjusted to spiders, but I still see a spider, I'm like, we just can't be friends. A little creepy. So it's that kind of concept. I'm just like, every time that happens, I'm just like, I just want out. Like, I just want to be away from this. Sometimes they have followed me. They usually can't follow me for a large extent, like, distance-wise. A lot of them tend to be stuck in whatever I usually acknowledge them in, is the only word to say. Like I said, I don't ever see them. I've only seen a couple, but even then, you know, a lot of times it scares me, so I'm like, bah! I run out the room, because I'm not really that excited to figure out what they are or what's going on, but it's my reality. And there's a reason I'm telling you all this, besides, like, look how cool and spooky I am. A lot of them, like I said, it's a difference. Some of them are just completely indifferent to my existence and all other people. There's, like, a difference as far as, like, awareness of, I guess, their current surroundings, as well as, I can't say the living or dead, because I've seen a couple attached to certain people. Like, I had an ex-boyfriend, who, this is the only time it was cool, like, I could have my own show for this, like, 2 minutes. An ex-boyfriend of mine, I could tell he had somebody attached to him, because whoever he was attached to him was kind of angry, didn't like me. He was one of the ones that picked up that I was there, and didn't like me, which I don't blame him. At the time, I was, like, 18, and like me either. That was the only time I could recognize his family members. Sometimes I can recognize their family members, but they're generally attached to a place or a spot, sometimes a person, but usually when they're attached to a person, it's kind of a loving thing, that I've experienced. Not a loving, but it's almost like a protective thing, but, you know, like I said, I don't know what this is. I have no logic behind it. Everything that I'm talking about is my observations. It doesn't follow any rules. There's very few that it does, and I feel like I'm seeing 5% into something, so I can only give you my perspective. I don't really know what the fuck is this shit's about. I've wanted to kind of hone in on it, and, you know, see if I have any medium-like powers and can talk to the dead, and I don't really put a lot of value in that. Not saying it doesn't exist, but I don't know, and from all I've read and done the research, it doesn't necessarily sound exactly like what I'm experiencing. I could have like a foot in, a foot out the door, could be my ADHD. I'm like, dead people go, you know. It's like, oh, that's sweet, you're dead, shiny. Could be any number of things. Up until recently, I've never said that they were dead people. I even said now I cringe, because it'd be too convenient for somebody who has grown up loving Beetlejuice and Tim Burton and all that kind of stuff, and then did, like, you know, the spooky thing at a young age, and then kind of, it's too convenient to be like, I see ghosts. The only thing is, I'm a pretty logic person, and in my blog I talk about science and all this shit that I love. So it's hard for me to say dead people. Like I said, it's just too convenient. So I've really put it off or not acknowledged it. But the biggest... I'll go further into a lot of the aspects of what I've experienced, but the whole big point of this, and I wanted to express it, a little bit of it, so you guys can see the insanity that is my brain, is, it's linked to the bipolar. Hands down. The more bipolar I am, the more this stuff happens. It's never the same person. It's never the same thing. Well, it can be the same person. Like in this house, when I was unmedicated, there was a guy named Scott. Weird shit like that. And I would be, like, falling asleep, and I would wake up, and, like, because I would hear somebody say something, or I never hear it, but it was like a word would be put in my head, and I'm like, what the fuck does that word mean? I have to go look something up, and it was pretty insane. Anyway, I've had locations where the same person or thing has been there, but outside of that, like, I don't see the same thing or feel the same thing at different locations. So it's not something that necessarily follows me as far as, you know, like if it's one entity or whatever it is. It's linked to the bipolar. But my biggest problem, and I've switched sides on this recently, is the bipolar a beacon for these things, like having a better antenna reception? The more bipolar I am, well, basically the more unmedicated and out of control that I am, I generally get a lot more, and it actually adds to the frustration because I'm getting all of this stuff. It's not like a continuous thing, but in the moments when I'm the most, I guess, chemically disoriented, for lack of a better explanation, even if I'm perfectly under control, but it's just, you know, something's going on, I can't go by cemeteries, because it's like a kindergarten class, and if you ask a kindergarten, like, alright, everybody, what's your favorite color, and speak at once, it's just overstimulation. You can't understand the words, and you can't understand who's who. Some are screaming, some are quiet, some are afraid of answering, the other ones are, you know, just cowering in a corner eating paste. I don't know. It's kind of like really mild chaos. And so when everything's bad off inside of me, whether I know it or not, it becomes like that. It's just, I can't, even driving by, like, I can at least spot, like, 5 to 10 spot, like, I'm receiving things. Um, it's so fucking weird. It's so weird. It's so weird to talk about this. Is the bipolar attracting this stuff? Or, and that's what I thought for a while, is like the bipolar is, I never wanted to say they were dead people. I never wanted to, like I said, any part of that. But it's my reality. I'm 30 years old, and it's been happening my entire life. And I didn't consider this option until Johnny suggested it. And I was so mad at him for doing this at first. If all of that is just part of the bipolar. An example, the girl in this video I just watched, she has auditory hallucinations, so she hears things that aren't there. And, you know, she said it was like a screaming whatever. I've never had that before, but I've always had this. And I have recently come around to believe that it is caused by the bipolar. I'm still curious about it because I've got so much other mental stuff to worry about. I'm not really worried about if I'm hearing or seeing dead people. Fuck them. I've got shit to do. I don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. But it's weird. It's really weird. But the biggest thing, when I'm medicated, it is dulled significantly or just gone. Like, there's some times that I can, like, I've been running and cycling in a cemetery up here in Menneson because there's nothing else here besides that. And I've been fine. I've been fine. Even when I was losing my shit this past couple of weeks with all the medication poisoning, the doctor put me on Seroquel. Bitch. No, I'm just kidding. No, I hate her. I didn't experience anything. I've, like, partially felt, like, two things, but I was literally just so stuck in my head and trying to figure everything out, and it was more medication poisoning than it was just pure bipolar. You know, like, my chemicals were out of whack. It wasn't even like they are normally. But I have, and this is what makes me mad, in my post I was talking about, you know, I didn't pick up on the fact that I was having inappropriate emotional responses. I mean, every bit of the bipolar was screaming at me. It was just like, this is wrong, and I didn't pay attention because I'm a crazy person. But I started seeing Scott around the house again. Scott is the guy that pops up when I'm crazy. I can't say crazy, but he's the one that I've experienced. He said like one or two words to me. He told me his name. He's one of the ones that focuses in on me. There's a couple of them. They differ, just like regular people, as far as, I can't say their intentions, because I don't fucking know, but as far as their level of intensity. I can never tell if it's like evil or good or any of that shit. There's just a level of intensity and a level of focus depending on what it is. If I on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 would be like a flicker and indifferent, and 10 would be like completely dead set, you know, which I've experienced. I'll tell you that another time. Scott's probably like a 6.5. You know, he definitely likes to just stare at me like, what do you want, man? It's like, I'm busy, I'm vacuuming, really have time for your possibly dead or I'm hallucinating ass. But I was starting to see him again. I saw and experienced him when I first was here, like October through like November of last year. And I became medicated mid-December, and since I got back up here, like, things were faint. Like, I would walk into a room and I could feel him there, but it was so faint, and I literally was just feeling so good I didn't care. And so I would just be able to deal with it. Usually when it's pretty bad, I mean, I'm terrified of these things. And they feed off of that. They love that shit. I hate it. And I wish I could not be afraid, but there's something that's possibly a dead person in the same room or staring at me. What am I supposed to do? Oh, it doesn't exist. It's still staring at me, whatever it is. Like, I have no control over this. So anyway, I started seeing Scott again. He told me his name. I didn't name him. And it started out as things in the corner of my eye first. And generally, like, I've had some experience as far as, like, minor hallucinations, I believe, with the bipolar. Usually when I'm really bipolar and drunk, unfortunately. But generally it's sometimes a corner of my eye, but I'm a pretty jumpy person. But I had started seeing things in a corner of my eye, and I would look, and I would see things. Like, visually see things. I've seen a ghost, I hate to use that word, thing, maybe a handful of times in my life. I would say 5 to 6, and that's being generous. But I was seeing things. Like, that's how fucked up this has been recently. And it was like dark figures type of shit. I literally think the Seroquel fucked me up hardcore. Not only did it just spin the bipolar out of control, but I mean, it fucked me up. And I didn't recognize it. I was seeing things. I was experiencing ghosts again. I use that word lightly. And I didn't fucking pick up on it. But anyway, the whole point of this is, it's weird, the things that come with bipolar. There's a lot of articles in relation between bipolar and the other side. Not all of it's been weird, unexplainable, and bad. I've had some dreams that are very different than regular dreams, which is hard, because dreams is just, that's an unpredictable realm of God knows what. I've had some dreams of things being explained or given to me that are going to happen in the future, or do, or advice. It's weird, and that's hard to explain. I think that stuff's legit, just because I've seen it unfold in front of me. Unfortunately, I don't have any good examples of it, just because I'm like, that was weird, I'm just gonna move forward and not tell the world that I have a guardian angel spirit that comes to me and tells me shit in the middle of the night. My brother died about 2.5 years ago. He died of a heroin overdose. There was depression or something else involved in that. I don't know. Growing up was not easy for my sister, my brother, or myself, so I'm obviously bipolar. She has like the mild version of bipolar. It's called something with a C. I don't know. My mom's crazy. I love you, Mom, but you're crazy. My grandmother was bipolar, as I am. She ended up killing herself. Anyway, my brothers come to me in some... I've dreamed about dreamt about my brother several hundred times. I mean, he was very close to me growing up. But I've had about 3 or 4 specific dreams where he actually came to me. And that's really hard to tell people, and that's, especially when this whole blog and everything is like, look how crazy I am, and then the one thing I say is like, oh, my dead brother visits me in my dreams. No, I mean it. This is for real. No, this is legit. Everything else I say is totally legit. But no, just believe this, but it's for me to stand by. It's not for me to convince anybody about it, because I just don't care about convincing anybody about it. It's my reality. I do take it lightly. Like, it could be anything, but it feels more legit to me. And even if it's not, it's something I can hold on to, and it's not a negative thing, so I've just made my peace with it, as opposed to trying to figure it out. But like I said, I've dreamt about him a lot, but these were very different. Also, my grandmother, she was the one who was really bipolar, and she loved me to death. Oh my god, I'd be like 10 years old and be like, look, I tied my shoe, and she would just go start a parade for it, which is weird, because I would be 10. But, so it's just been strange experiences. I can't say that I see dead people or experience dead people, but there's a very strong connection of death and what's going on in my mind. Could be of my creation, could be these feeling hallucinations are a product of the bipolar, and it just happened to latch on to death and dead people, because I grew up in way too many horror movies. Like I said, Tim Burton fan, eventually faggy goth kid, so I mean, that could just be the vehicle that my disorder used, because I mean, it's pretty convenient for somebody who likes to hang out in cemeteries and is fascinated by Halloween as a young child. But I really don't have an explanation. I don't know, but I did want to get it out there. Typing it, I have like 5 drafts of me trying to type it, but it's very hard in words to tell the world that I see dead people. But either way, it's for you to decide. If I'm full of shit, or if I'm not. I'm not really here to convince anybody of anything, and I would love to hear some feedback, especially some people that have the disorder, if you've experienced anything similar to this, more so if you've had any other auditory, visual, or, mental hallucinations. Hate to use those words, sounds strong, like I'm calling you crazy. I'm completely open to hearing other people's stories. Mine is just my reality, and whether I accept it or not, It is what it is. If anybody else can relate, I'd appreciate it. Let's share some stories. Let's figure this shit out. And anybody who's not bipolar and has a connection to this, you know, let me know. But, last little side note, I've met a lot of people that were like, I haven't told them anything about what I understand, and they're like, no, I can communicate with the dead. I'm like, okay, go for it. And they would just make shit up. They'd be like, somebody used to live here. Somebody who was not happy. It's like, no shit. Because, you know, that's a strain. In the couple thousands and millions of years human beings have been here, especially in, like, you know, the New England states, somebody was unhappy here before in this house. It's like 250 years old. My mind is blown. Anyway, I've met a lot of people that want to have something, or maybe have convinced themselves they have something, but it's crap. It's definitely crap. It's the want and need to feel that they do, and that's why I never tell anybody, because, like I said, it'd be too convenient if I had it. But please give me feedback, not necessarily on the job that I'm doing, as much as I would like to hear what people, if you have any similar experiences, or you knew somebody that did have similar experiences, I don't know, share me your story. Send me a video, send me an email. It's madbikewoman@gmail.com. There's also the Facebook, which is just Mad Bike Woman. You can look it up. It's pretty easy. But you can send me messages there, on this YouTube channel, whatever. I'd like to hear your stories. Kind of sick of hearing myself talk. Alright? Have fun.